Welcome back to Monitors Unboxed. It's time for a brand new recommendation video focusing on OLED gaming monitors. Across the last 2 years or so, OLED monitors have gone from being pretty much a non-existent category to now dominating the higher end of the market with high refresh rate true HDR options in a variety of categories. If you're specifically interested in an OLED panel for gaming, this is the video for you. As with our previous best of videos, we tend to talk about and recommend monitors we've personally tested and know to be good, or monitors that are very similar to products we have tested. It's always worth going back and checking out the dedicated monitor reviews we produce for more in-depth thoughts on each product. But just so you know, these recommendations are not sponsored in any way by any company. They're based on our testing and reviews. Any pricing that we talk about was correct at the time of filming, but of course you should check in your region given the focus here is on monitors in USD. We have links in the description below to check current pricing if you happen to see this video weeks or months after it went live. Also, a lot of what is included in this video is very similar to our best HDR gaming monitors video, so apologies if you end up watching both and hearing things that sound pretty similar, but hey, the crossover between HDR and OLED, it's pretty large at the moment. If you're after the best 4K OLED gaming monitor on the market right now, or if you're after the best overall OLED monitor, look no further than one of the very latest 32-inch 4K 240Hz OLED displays. Two new panels have hit the market in early 2024 offering WOLED or QD-OLED technology, and depending on what you're after, there are lots of great choices for the best of the best. For most people, I believe a 4K QD-OLED monitor is going to be the best bet, as this panel type is offering, based on what we've tested so far, higher real-world HDR brightness, better color volume, slightly better text quality, and lower prices. The glossy screen coating does have some issues in brighter environments, but the clarity it provides is highly sought after, especially if you're not a fan of matte screens and their coating grain. Our recent 4K WOLED versus 4K QD-OLED video goes into more detail on this. The best 4K QD-OLED gaming monitor right now is the Asus ROG Swift PG32 UCDM. There isn't a ton separating the various models we've tested. Areas to performance like motion clarity, response times and brightness are all pretty similar, but I think the performance of this Asus monitor stacks up really well and it has a strong feature set. In particular, the Asus model offers an excellent highly accurate sRGB mode that keeps settings unlocked if you need to adjust it. Fantastic HDR accuracy, including strong peak brightness, and ELMB black frame insertion if you want to use it. The port selection is great, and Asus have also promised Dolby Vision support through a future firmware update. It is one of the more expensive offerings at $1,300 US, but its high price tag is somewhat justified given its performance. Alternatively, the MSI MPG 321 URX is also worth a look, especially if you live in the United States, where it features a much cheaper $950 price tag. It gets pretty close to the Asus variant in performance, but doesn't pack quite as many features. If you don't need any of the special features Asus offers, it makes a lot of sense to save $350 and get the MSI variant. However, outside the US, the MSI model is a lot more expensive, often coming in around the same price as the Asus model, in which case I'd just go for the PG32 UCDM instead. The Dell Alienware AW3225QF is also worth recommending, but only if you want a curved screen. It's the only 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD-OLED gaming monitor that uses a curved panel instead of a flat panel, which is something that some gamers prefer. I personally think a flat panel makes more sense here as it's better suited to productivity work, which is a possible use case for a 32-inch 4K monitor, and that's why I generally lean towards the Asus and MSI models. But the performance Dell are providing is excellent, it has a good feature set including Dolby Vision support, and its price tag of $1,200 is quite attractive as it's often the cheapest model available in various regions. It's genuinely hard to go wrong here between the three QD OLEDs, and there should be something for everyone depending on your needs and desires. While I think the 4K 240Hz QD-OLED offerings are generally the way to go for most buyers, especially those with a focus on single-player HDR gaming, 4K WOLED is still worth considering in some situations. In particular, if you're a multiplayer gamer that loves fast-paced competitive titles, a 4K WOLED like the LG 32GS95UE might be the better choice. This is due to these 32-inch WOLED panels offering a unique feature called Dual Mode, which allows them to switch between 4K 240Hz and 1080p 480Hz modes at the press of a button. The 1080p 480Hz mode has noticeably better motion clarity and lower input lag than 4K 240Hz modes, so it's a better way to play titles like Apex Legends, Call of Duty, or Overwatch if you don't mind the drop in resolution. And given it also supports 4K 240Hz, you can switch back to a higher resolution experience for single player or less motion sensitive titles, giving you the best of both worlds, an awesome feature for those that enjoy a wide variety of games. The HDR experience here is still really good, and you get many of the same OLED benefits as the QD-OLEDs described earlier. The main reason why I don't recommend the LG 32GS95UE as strongly as the QD-OLED pack is that it has a higher price tag of $1,400 US, which isn't justified unless you specifically want the 1080p 480Hz mode. LG also didn't calibrate this monitor as well as some of the QD-OLEDs, its brightness behavior isn't as good, and there aren't as many features included, no USB-C or Dolby Vision for example, and the burn-in warranty is questionable. But because of the unique dual mode feature, it's still worth considering for some buyers and is a worthy inclusion in this video. Like in the 4K category, when it comes to buying a 1440p OLED monitor, you have two main choices, 360Hz QD-OLED and 240Hz WOLED. Most of the options available on the market use one of these two panels, with the majority being WOLED as that panel hit the market about a year earlier. At the moment though, I believe the best 1440p OLEDs to be the 360Hz QD-OLED variants. So far, I've tested two 27-inch 1440p 360Hz QD-OLED gaming monitors, the MSI MPG271QRX and the Dell Alienware AW2725DF. Both of these monitors are remarkably similar in their overall performance, so depending on pricing and availability in your region, I'm recommending both of them. Being an OLED monitor, we get all the usual benefits of OLED, including elite response times and per pixel control. These are super fast monitors, they have excellent zero-level blacks, per pixel local dimming allows HDR content to look fantastic, and brightness is very good, reaching around 1000 nits peak. Both the MSI and Dell variants offer excellent calibration, great color quality, and 3-year burn-in warranties. The reason why I'm recommending a 360Hz QD-OLED in particular is the higher refresh rate of 360Hz compared to 240Hz for last year's WOLED alternatives, and that does lead to better motion clarity similar to that of a 500Hz LCD. This leads to the ultimate experience for competitive gamers that want speed but don't want to sacrifice adaptive sync, viewing angles, or resolution. And on top of that, it ends up being a highly versatile display because of its strong HDR capabilities, ideal for single-player gamers as well. So no matter the type of gaming you want to do, these 360Hz QD-OLEDs offer an excellent experience. The other main advantages to going QD-OLED are its superior brightness in its HDR mode, better subpixel structure that leads to clearer text, and its glossy screen coating. The coating is a personal preference thing though, glossy can look better in darker usage environments, but the panel structure of QD-OLED reflects a lot of ambient light in brighter environments, which puts it at a disadvantage compared to matte WOLED screens. When it comes to choosing between the MSI and Dell variants, the main differences are as follows. The MSI model gets slightly brighter, has proper HDMI 2.1, and packs a USB-C input with power delivery and a KVM switch. The Dell model is better calibrated, has a nicer design in my opinion, and nails HDR-SDR switching. The vast majority of performance characteristics are identical or near identical between the two, as they both use the same QD-OLED panel, so it's a toss-up in most situations. What I will do is get whichever of the two is cheaper in your region. In the United States, that will typically be the MSI variant, which has an $800 MSRP, compared to $900 for the Alienware model. Outside the US, the Alienware model is typically cheaper and will be the better buy. While I have tested more ultra-wide HDR gaming monitors since my last update, my opinion on the best option hasn't changed. Get the Dell Alienware AW3423DWF. At just $800 US these days, the AW3423DWF is rarely beaten for value, and thanks to the latest suite of firmware updates, it also offers excellent performance. This Alienware model is a 34-inch 3440x1440 165Hz QD-OLED, bringing benefits like elite response times and per-pixel control. This panel can hit up to 1000 nits of brightness for small elements, and just looks great displaying HDR content, making it highly suited to single-player gaming, especially with the immersive ultrawide format. It's not the fastest OLED going around these days, now that we have 360Hz and even 480Hz options, but the speed of OLED does allow it to punch above its weight relative to an LCD operating at the same refresh rate. The DWF model is well calibrated, it has decent SDR brightness, and Dell helps to mitigate anxiety over burn-in with a 3-year warranty. The subpixel layout of this QD-OLED panel isn't ideal for text quality, and like with all OLEDs there is a risk of permanent burn-in. The glossy screen coating is divisive, offering benefits in low ambient light environments but struggling in brighter conditions. Compared to other QD-OLED ultrawides, it's hard to beat the AW3423 DWF on performance or pricing. Dell has done a fantastic job of ensuring this is the best monitor in both categories, which is rare to see as usually the better value monitors also sacrifice performance or features. Even if this display was more expensive, I'd likely still recommend it. We've also seen the release of WOLED ultrawides lately, such as the Asus ROG Swift PG34W CDM. While these monitors do have some advantages, like its higher 240Hz refresh rate, there are other areas which aren't as strong, so in general I'd still prefer a QD-OLED alternative. The main reason I can't recommend them though is their ludicrously high $1,300 MSRP. It's just impossible to recommend them at this price compared to the $800 AW3423 DWF, so again, just go the Alienware. Is a classic 21:9 ultrawide gaming monitor not actually wide enough for you? Well, look no further than a Superultrawide, which are available in OLED versions these days. Samsung Display are producing a 49-inch 5120x1440 QD-OLED ultrawide with a 32:9 aspect ratio equivalent to two 27-inch 1440p monitors side by side, which definitely provides a lot of immersion if you have the desk space to accommodate this beast. There are several monitors using various versions of this panel, but right now my pick would be the Samsung Odyssey OLED G95 SC. It uses a 240Hz variant of the panel, where many competitors opt for 144Hz instead, and I just don't see the point in sacrificing refresh rate when most options are already priced above $1,000 US. When spending this sort of cash, you may as well just get the best that's on offer. With that said, I would only give the OLED G9 a lukewarm recommendation. There are plenty of areas this display does well, like its excellent motion clarity, high HDR brightness, and rich zero-level blacks, but it's also let down by a fiddly settings menu and a few compatibility issues with AMD GPUs. Samsung also do not offer a burn-in warranty, which is becoming increasingly more common with OLED gaming monitor offerings. Despite a few frustrations, I think it's the best of the super ultra-wide OLED offerings, and on that basis, if you were specifically after this sort of format, I would get the OLED G9. It truly is an immersive monitor, which is ideal for single-player gaming and also various simulators, like if you're building a racing or flight sim rig. What I will say though is you should keep a very close eye on pricing and time your purchase well. The usual base price for the OLED G9 is $1,800 US, which is far too expensive, but it regularly goes on sale for $1,200 to $1,300 US, a much more competitive and palatable price. It's still a large premium over a normal ultrawide like the AW3423 DWF. You're faced with spending at least 50% more to get the wider screen, but compared to other options that provide a similar format, it seems reasonable. In pretty much all of the categories that we've gone through so far, the recommendations have ultimately been for high-end, expensive monitors. Right now, it's not really possible to get an affordable OLED gaming display. There's nothing below $500, for example, but there are some products that are better bang for buck value than others. My current recommendation for those after a more value-oriented OLED monitor is the AOC Agon Pro AG276QZD. For the last few months now, this product has been available for $700 US, and recently I've seen it drop to just $650, making it at least $150 cheaper than any of the other OLEDs I've discussed so far. And the good news about this monitor is that it's actually still pretty good, offering a lot of what buyers will be after in an OLED display. The AG276QZD is a 27-inch 1440p 240Hz WOLED monitor, and as expected it offers all the usual OLED benefits. Elite response times, great motion clarity, per pixel control, excellent HDR image quality. Compared to our previous best 1440p OLED monitor pick, the main differences here are a swap from 360Hz QD-OLED to 240Hz WOLED, as well as some differences in feature set. For example, there's no HDMI 2.1 here. While the refresh rate is only 240Hz, that's still a very high refresh rate at 1440p that's highly suitable for both competitive and single player gaming, typically offering similar motion clarity to a 360Hz LCD. For a lot of gamers, the difference between a 240Hz and 360Hz OLED will be negligible, as you simply won't be playing games at that frame rate, and there's very little difference in motion between a WOLED and QD-OLED when run at the same refresh rate. So for example, if you're playing a game like Horizon Forbidden West at 100 FPS, having a 240Hz or 360Hz display makes little difference. The AG276QZD also has great HDR performance, and while it's not as bright as the latest QD-OLED panels, peak brightness is still in the 600 to 700 nit range, which is acceptable for HDR content. Combine that with deep blacks and per pixel local dimming, and the gaming experience here is very strong. At $650, this monitor performs really well and is easy to recommend, although there are some drawbacks that explain the lower price point. Text quality isn't especially amazing on this 1440p WOLED panel, the matte finish is divisive, and the build quality of this monitor is underwhelming. But bang for buck products tend to have a few sacrifices, and I'm happy to see it hasn't come in the form of key areas to performance. So that's it for this OLED gaming monitor recommendation video. A lot of the excitement in the monitor market at the moment has been for OLED gaming monitors, and there has never been more options to choose from. As always, if you do want to learn more about the monitors I've been talking about in this video, I have individual reviews available either on this channel or over on Hardware Unboxed. I'd also recommend checking the links in the description for updated pricing information, as this does change from time to time, so check down there if you are watching this video weeks or months after it went live. Also in the description, you'll find links to our Patreon and Floatplane accounts, which are a great place to support the channel directly. A lot of testing goes into these recommendation videos through all the reviews that you'll see on the channel throughout the year, and the best way to support us making those videos is via our Patreon and Floatplane. And in return, you will get some cool benefits like our Discord community, which is a great place to chat about monitors. So if you're on the fence about some particular decision that you're making, you may be able to get some great advice in our Discord community. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.